Hello and welcome back to our channel. Last time we started implementation of the dashboard, which will show stocks which are matching to Warren Buffett's investment criteria. We started writing down the code and implemented the imports and criteria definition. Now before moving forward with the code, quick announcements. On our Telegram channel, we continue to publish articles and also daily profitable options for analyzing and understanding how the options work. Once the platform for users accessibility will go public, I'll place the link so everybody can check it on a test mode, and later on, if they will decide, they can subscribe to it. Now let's continue with code. So what should we do with our code next? Let's outline what our next steps are with comments. First of all, we'll need the list of stocks. Get list of stocks. And for those of you who are in the channel for a long time, you know that our repository in GitHub contains few of the stock files, the files where there are stocks listed, either one per line or some other way. So for this one, we are going to use the stocks.txt file, which I modified and left there around 200 stock names. Okay, it will get the list of stocks. What it will do next? Next, it will fetch the financial data for above mentioned stocks. Fetch financial data. After fetching financial data, all of these except for the one are available in financial data, but the interest coverage ratio requires some manual calculations. For doing that, we will create a helper method which will do calculation for us. So create helper method for interest coverage ratio. And after the last metric will be acquired, it will be time for evaluate the stocks. Evaluate stocks as criteria. And lastly, we're going to need to display it. Display results. Let's start with getting the list of stocks. Let's define the method which will work on it. Load stock symbols. And as usually we do, we want to avoid exceptions, so we'll go with try and except. Try with open stocks txt in read mode as file, and symbols will be again we're going with our approach that we do traditionally on the channel. So line, strip for line in file, if line strip. And for this we are going to ask to return symbols, because here we defined symbols as a list. And what if there is an exception? For example, file not found error, Streamlit error, file not found, and return an empty list. because nothing to return here. Again, we will take the stock list file, we'll go line by line and stripping those line values into separate elements of the created list named symbols. Next, we are going to fetch the fundamental data. Def fetch fundamental data for stock symbol. Stock is Yahoo Finance, ticker, stock symbol. Now, basically, we were happy with the one data set of the information from Yahoo Finance. As these are multiple entries that we are going to acquire, those are regularly updated in two datasets. One of them is info, the one that you are familiar with. So info will be stock info, and the next is financials. From here we are going to fetch all the data that we need for our next helper method. Financials equals to stock financials. And now what we are going to do, we are going to take this dictionary, which we defined as our default criteria, and paste it in a method, but make some modifications because we want to have this matching for the keys to the original criteria, but values for those keys we are going to acquire from above mentioned libraries. So let's name this metrics are equal the dictionary, and here goes info get debt to equity, and if the value is not present, return as NA. Same goes for others. Info get current ratio, and if not, return NA. After current ratio comes price to book. Basically same approach, so let's just copy and paste to avoid manual work. Just rename this price to book. Pay attention to the camel case here, because that's the exact name of the field on Yahoo Finance, and if even like capitalization will go wrong, we will have potential issue. Next comes return on equity. Paste return on equity and NA. I will get back to this one and the next one in a second. Return on assets. So for this we are not limiting here with the same structure as it was before, but rather let's move this at indentation. So here we are going, as it is the absolute value, we are going to multiply it by 100, but again to avoid errors when the value is not exist. So NA multiplied by 100, it doesn't make much sense. So here we are adding an if statement. If info get return on equity, else and pay. And the same approach is applicable for the next metric as well, because they are calculated basically the same way. Let's add some spacing here. Assets. Okay, great. And now the last one. As I already mentioned, there is no quite matching metric for this, but we can use some temporary name as a variable here. So let's name calculate interest ratio for financials. Okay, this is ready too, and as a return of this method, we will expect the dictionary metrics. Now, creating a helper method, we already gave it a name, so calculate interest ratio, and it will be showing financials. Now we'll try again, because this is calculation, and with calculation there are multiple dependencies. Try EBIT, which is earning before interest and taxes, will be equal to financials, LOC, operating income, and the latest value of this data set, which will be alloc 0. So this will fetch latest operational income statement from the financials data set. Same way, we are calculating interest expense, which is financials, LOC, interest expense, and again the latest value of it. Now comes the formula part. For the formula, we are going to display the formula's outcome as a return of this exact method. Return EBIT divided to interest expense. That's the formula of the interest coverage ratio. And except, as here we are going to provide multiple entries, we are providing them in parentheses. Key error or index error, or as it is ratio, zero division error. And for these cases, return NA. We got all metrics. Now let's work on the evaluation for them. Method evaluate metrics, and the attribute will be our dictionary of metrics. Evaluation equals empty dictionary, because we are giving a dictionary, and the evaluation will be our return, what we are expecting from this function to be returned. Basically, let's write it down here. Excuse me. And now for our input to this function, which is the metrics dictionary, we are providing key and value and which options they should meet. So for each key in here, there should be a value in metrics dictionary, which we created in fetch fundamental data method, and we are going to evaluate those based on the criteria defined here. For metric and value in metrics items, do the following. If value is equal to NA, evaluation metric will be same NA. So if there is no value to evaluate, we are providing as evaluation as not applicable, and continue to the next one. If it's not, we are defining here the criteria variable, which is equal to criteria get metric. Next, we are creating a Boolean variable and setting it true by default, and later on we will implement if statements, if operator, to check if the metric here in criteria it matches to the set of values that are acceptable for the threshold set by Warren Buffett or not. If it is, we will still have our Boolean value remaining true, which will mean that those KPIs are in line with the approved range. And if those are not, then the Boolean value will change from true to false. So let's name it meet criteria, which makes sense. Area equals to true. Now it's time to validate the metrics. If minimum in criteria and the the value of that criteria is lower than criteria minimum, what should we do? As mentioned, we are setting meet criteria equals to false. And while we have minimum, we also have maximum. So let's add this option too. If maximum in criteria and value is more than criteria maximum, then again meet criteria equals to false. And now it's the time for a magic trick to place all these above mentioned validation points into the action and set a rule to consider if the metric is past the threshold or it doesn't. So evaluation metric equals as if meet criteria, else it will be fail. Once again, we created an empty dictionary here to apply the results of this method operating on the dictionary of the values from fetching fundamental data method. And we are setting a temporary true boolean variable which continue to remain true if none of the options here are met. And lastly, if it is still true, then the evaluation metric for which it is true gets the record pass, and if it's not true, if it's false, it will get fail. And at the end of this method, we are returning our evaluation dictionary. Now it's time to display results. Streamlit, title, stock dashboard by Buffett's criteria. I see here some error, but I don't know where it is. Where? For the start of Streamlit application, we are going to call the load stock symbol method, and stock symbols variable will get the results as a list from this method of the stocks from the file. If not stock symbols, Streamlit warning, no stock names found. Else. Now we ruled out the possibility of not having stock symbols, and now we are working on the case when everything is fine and we need to display all the data that we acquired. So edge cases are covered. Now doing the main code. We will start with a drop down for user to select the stock. Streamlit, select box our select box. Select stock symbols, and we are applying this to the variable named selected stock equals to. Now this selected stock will be our symbol based on which our method here will get the metric information and later on pass it to the evaluation to end for display. If selected stock simulate header string evaluating selected stock metrics is fetch fundamental data for selected stock evaluation equals to evaluate metrics for metrics. And now displaying each metric with evaluation. For metric value in metrics items result equals to evaluation metric description is equal to criteria metric description. And now let's bring some fun and make a coloring to show it nicely. Color equals to green if result equals to pass else red. Streamlit metric label equals to string metric and description value equals to value if value is not an A, else if it's not an A, not applicable, showing that it will be not applicable, and if it's not applicable, we are providing value key equals to value. Delta equals to result and delta color equals to inverse if result equals fail, else normal. Okay, our code seems to be ready. Let's try to test it. Streamlit run task 20. Wow. Here we go. We can see evaluation of the stock for debt equity ratio. It fails. Let's open to see what it should be. It should be not more than 0.5, and for this stock it's 106, which is correct. Current ratio 2.95, which should be not more than 2.5, and again correct. And we have pass on price to book ratio, we have fail on ROE, ROA, but it's working for the interest coverage ratio. So here is the drop down with stock name, and it acts like radio button. So let's have it for Apple. Apple also doesn't pass all the metrics. So let's try to find some random stock. E.g. Ernst & Young. Those stock values are not applicable. Let's try another one. Here we go. Fail, fail, with very close to being acceptable range. Pass, pass, fail, and pass. Let's go to the end of the list. Pick up some stock from here. For some of the stocks, as you can see, data is not applicable from Yahoo Finance, so we have what we have. Okay, this summarizes it with what we did. Let's provide a quick summary. We defined the thresholds as per Warren Buffett's criteria. We created a dictionary for those criteria, and next we wrote a code to get the stock symbols from the file here. Next, based on the stock list, we fetched the data, evaluated the metrics, calculated the missing one here, and then evaluated the metrics and provided some coloring if the stock metric is matching to Warren Buffett's criteria or not. What you can do with this next, first of all, you can make it look nice, like adding 2 decimals only here, or even create a comparison table, or adding a summary which will show here how many of those metrics are failed and how many passed and how many not applicable. So basically you can turn this into a great instrument for your investment decisions. I hope you liked the video and you will be successful in implementing it locally. I will make sure that the latest code in this folder is pushed to the GitHub repository, so shortly after finishing viewing this video, you can try the GitHub repo and it will be there. Reminder, it will be our task 20. Thank you for your time. Like, share the video, subscribe to our channel, and if you have any feedback, I would love to see your thoughts and what you would be interested in the next. Thank you and have a great day.